Welcome back, Tiger Tamers. I am Lupine Fiasco, and this is Daily FaB Gameplay. For anyone who's new to the channel, welcome to a state of zen. What we do here is review replays of games that I have played on the Talishar client days or weeks ago after enough time has passed that I lose my bias and can more objectively judge the quality of my play. I'll talk through turn cycles and give my thoughts on the line I would take now compared to the line I took then at the time of recording. We either learn from my mistakes or reinforce good play patterns with the overall goal of tightening and optimizing our gameplay in the future to take down paper events like the upcoming ProQuest season and, most importantly, walk away with that shiny cardboard. If you would like to check out the list I'm playing here or try it for yourself on Talishar, there is a FaB deck link in the video description below. While you're down there, if you haven't already done so, please consider a YouTube subscription. It is the best free way to support me and to make sure that you see daily FaB gameplay in your video feed 5 days a week. The best paid way to support me is through Patreon, and a Patreon link is also in the video description. A Patreon subscription will get you access to the DFG Discord and the shiny cardboard Talishar card back. At higher tiers, your name will appear in every DFG video, you'll get bonus DFG content every week, and there are even more benefits to come. Daily FaB gameplay will always be free 5 days a week, so for those who can afford to patronize me, I truly appreciate it. And if you just want memes and rambling, follow me on X. Now, without further ado, let's talk about our sideboard and about our game plan. What we do with the die roll in Azalea is still something that I'm trying to figure out. At this point, I think we are supposed to go second as aggro players, and that goes for Zen and for KO. Azalea has a lot of high roll potential on turn 0 if she draws even moderately well. She can just natty into red in the ledger. She can play knock the death whistle into red in the ledger. She can knock into drill shot. She can natty into drill shot, sleep dart, fatigue shot, not super relevant against Zen. But any dominated arrow plus a couple laces is enough to push a lot of damage on turn 1. Probably with some pretty nasty on-hits at the same time. On the other hand, if Azalea doesn't do any of that, if she does not natty into the arrow off the top, if she doesn't have knock or red in the ledger, or if she just sends like dominated spire sniping with lace with blood rot, you're probably ahead. You can block with a card from hand, take some damage, and have tempo on your first turn. As a KO player, I was choosing to go first against Azalea and feeling pretty good about it. Talishar stats do not bear that out as the correct choice for KO or for Zen, so at least for this game, I will choose to go second and just see how much I get punished for doing that. I believe that we do want to play Needle into Azalea, that she has a number of cards in her deck that just don't break Needle. Any lace does not break Needle. Her arrows do, but depending on the composition of her hand, she may need the arrows that she has. And if she does just block with 2 cards to break your needles, I think you're in a pretty good position anyway, because you know that all Azalea can really do is like play a lace and then attack with an arrow from Arsenal, and you're feeling pretty up at that point. So I like Needle in this matchup. As far as what we're boarding in and out, at this point I am cutting both Harmony of the Hunts, red and blue, boarding in Command and Conquer and Warmonger's Diplomacy. Warmonger's is not as good against Azalea as it used to be, with her long draw half glove being a way around the Warmonger's effect. At the same time, she only gets to use the glove once, and it still does put her in a position where she doesn't get to do the thing she was setting up to do with her arsenal. And at minimum, Warmonger is a blue block 3, so we are going to put it in. Our strategy for this matchup is to try and put ourselves into a position where we can pop off whenever we need to. We're looking for an early transcend, so that Traverse is online. we are looking to save all of our armor for when we might need to block a single dominated arrow that would otherwise stop our turn, keeping in mind that our armor does block for a total of 7, and if we have a 3 block in our hand, we're covering 10 total, which might not always be enough to get us to where we need to be, but is a lot better than what Katsu or FaB had available. And the fact that we can tutor a tiger and a blue on demand is very good for putting us in that position to take advantage of Azalea having an off turn when it comes to disruption. So let's submit the deck and we will see what this matchup looks like. This hand is not very good for blocking, so that's too bad. At the same time, it is okay on our turn if we find ourselves in a position where we don't have to block or don't get to block. We can pitch a red into Descendant, play Path Well Traveled, and Transcend. Sleep Dart for 5, Dominate is not all that bad, right? We'll take some damage from it. Our hero power won't work, but we are only taking 3 points of damage, and we get to Arsenal a Path Well Traveled. We could Transcend if we wanted to, just keeping in mind that we cannot pitch the Chi into Zen, though keeping in mind that we are putting a Chi back into our deck. So the correct line of play here may be to block with 100 Winds, get it into our discard. Depending on what we draw into, we can pitch into Descendant Gust Wave, play Path Well Traveled, Transcend, pitch the Chi to attack with 2 Zephyr Needles, and then Arsenal something. So I like blocking with 100 Winds here at a minimum, and just seeing what we draw into on the next turn. Drawing into Ancestral Harmony is kind of unfortunate. We would have liked to see another red that we could play by pitching our Chi. Path Well Traveled needs a target, so unfortunately we would have to attack. We would play Ancestral Harmony. We would have to attack with something in order to Transcend, and depending on what we attack with, we might not be able to pitch the Chi. So for example, if we play Ancestral Harmony, say we miss or we flip 100 Winds, we pitch our blue, play our Spinning Wheel Kick, we float 2 resources, we play Path Well Traveled, we Transcend. Even if we don't make resources with Kasaya, we have 2 floating for both needles, and then we don't have a way to pitch our Chi. So unless we want to do some weird jumping through hoops where we play Ancestral Harmony and then pitch our Spinning Wheel Kick to attack with Descendant in order to Transcend, very likely what we will do is play Harmony, try our luck. If we miss, we just attack with Spinning Wheel Kick for 5, Needle, Needle, Arsenal, Path Well Traveled. We do with hitting that Shifting Winds. So at this point, let's just send a 2-card 9 and Arsenal Path Well Traveled and hope that we get to Transcend with it on our next turn. Azalea will not have Tunic, so if she uses 2 arrows to block both needles, it only leaves her with a card and an Arsenal, which at maximum is 7. It could be Lace into Drill Shot, Endless Arrow, Searing Shot, should all be fine, but ultimately is not as disruptive as Azalea needs to be. So the first needle does get eaten by an arrow, but the second needle connects, so we push 2 more points of damage. We get to Arsenal this Path Well Traveled, and Azalea only has 3 cards total to play with, so not terrible for us. Here we draw into a Stir the Pot, which is going to be enough to Transcend. We can play our Spinning Wheel Kick, play Stir the Pot, Path Well Traveled, double Transcend, make 2 more resources for a total of 4, pitch into Zen, play Art of War, so we aren't going to block the Endless Arrow. We don't care about stopping the on-hit necessarily, as Azalea is going to take an intellect penalty, and the Bloodrot Pox is pretty marginal compared to what we're about to do. We can play all of this out in our resolution step. None of this, no, we shouldn't do that because we have an Art of War and we actively want to buff our Spinning Wheel Kick's power. So we will gain some resources. At bare minimum, we can use extra resources to pay off the Bloodrot Pox. What do we want to get with our Zen? Considering that we are going to banish this Crouching Tiger to the Art of War, something like Chase the Tail doesn't seem as impactful. Aspect of Tiger Body is a safe pick in case we draw into a Chase the Tail or a Tiger Swipe, but the easiest pickup here is just Spinning Wheel Kick, and without any in-depth knowledge of Zen or statistics or really what I should be looking to spike into at this point, I do like just getting the safe pick of Spinning Wheel Kick. It's a solid 6 points of damage under Art of War with a relevant on-hit. And we are going to play the Art of War, banishing our Crouching Tiger and just seeing what we draw into. Drawing into Pass Over Command and Conquer is all super solid. We will get to Arsenal this Passover. We get to play the Spinning Wheel Kick out here. I like playing Command and Conquer and then pitching Chi to pay off the Bloodrot Pox, as opposed to Zephyr Needle very likely getting eaten by an arrow into Command and Conquer. Let's just send the CNC. Arsenal is Passover. We snipe that Endless Arrow and deal a lot of damage and then just reset. So we do get to Transcend again, depending on what Azalea does. Unfortunately, we do need an active attack in order to transcend with our 2 instants. Grain that tips the scale does need to target something. And unfortunately, with our Aspect of Tiger and Bonds of Ancestry, we don't have anything that has Go Again. So we may be looking to do this on Azalea's turn. At the same time, we are staring down Red in the Ledger, 11 Dominate with Bloodrot and Inertia tied to it. I'm going to give Azalea the thinking. How do we want to play out this hand, considering that we are going to lose our Arsenal, and we only get to do one thing. We cannot cover 11 damage between armor and a card from hand. We can only get up to 10 if we block with 7 armor block and a 3 block from hand. Because of how Kasaya works, we cannot get the block value from Kasaya and the Zen state value from the Kasaya activation. So we have no way out of this. We are going to get hit by Red in the Ledger. So what we may want to do, what seems best to me, is block this with Aspect of Tiger Body, cover 3, take 8. On our turn, attack with Bonds of Ancestry by pitching one of our 2 blues, and then use the other blue to pay off the Bloodrot Pox. We're still getting the wrong end of that trade, but it's the best we can do under the circumstances. We push 4 points of damage, we don't take 2 from the Bloodrot. So we are converting the most cards that we can on value. We're getting the most value out of this that we possibly could. We could transcend here, but why? We already have Chi in our deck. We can't do anything with extra Chi necessarily, and by instead just holding on to our instants, we are leaving ourselves open to be able to transcend more in the future. The hand we draw into is not very good. At most, we can send a 3-card 10 with 100 Winds for 3, followed by E-Strike for 7. Azalea is only at 14, so that isn't the worst thing I've ever heard. Here we've got a Bolt and Shot coming in for 7. We're not going to block this. We can block whatever the follow-up is. assuming it isn't dominated, we might get more value out of blocking whatever the follow-up is. Looking at an Endless Arrow instead of a Codex is totally fine. Endless Arrow comes in for 6. We can just cover this with 2/3 blocks, send 100 Winds and Arsenal, Bonds, or E-Strike. We can also look at breaking equipment. So what can we do if we block with Traverse and we get a blue? With a blue, we can tutor into Zen, find a Descendant Gust Wave, which we could then pay for by pitching the Command and Conquer. So we send 3 Go Again, Bonds for probably 100 Winds. So we send Descendant for 3, Bonds for total of 7, 100 Winds for 10, 100 Winds number 2 for 14, and then E-Strike for 7 by bottoming our Tiger. We are forcing Azalea to block with at least 1 card and armor. More likely she gives 2 cards and armor. She does get to keep an Endless Arrow in her arsenal, but we'll still have armor left over. If we instead block with Traverse, Stride, and CNC, then we can pitch our E-Strike, or we still tutor with Zen. We pitch our E-Strike or 100 Winds into Gust Wave, play it. I think we are just sending less damage. We're getting less overall value. Believe that if we give up our CNC and we play out a Descendant Bonds 100 Winds E-Strike line, we are just getting 1 less point of value, which is not necessarily bad. Playing defensively against Azalea when we aren't being dominated is never a bad idea, because we then put ourselves into a position where we don't have to get killed by a dominated arrow. But pressuring Azalea when she is historically very bad at blocking is also totally fine. Never a bad idea to just make Azalea block and punish her for drawing 1 3 block and 3 2 blocks. So we do block with the CNC, which unfortunately means that we will not be able to convert more with 100 Winds because we have 2 Tigers. We cannot Arsenal 1 because we have Inertia. So probably are going to play it for no value. Although if we do grab a Art of Tiger Body, we do get to follow up the Bonds. That is going to make a 3rd Tiger, which will give our 2nd Tiger +1 power from Shuko. So a fine line here. I do still think that we should have kept the CNC. Yes, Azalea would have an arsenal, but she also would have already had to have blocked to cover up the 100 Winds damage, and we would have gotten at least 1 more card from her. So she would still have 3 cards, but less control over what they are. At this point, it seems the best Azalea can do is Red in the Ledger for 5 Dominate. We can cover this with armor and a 3 block. The question is which 3 block? Block with Kasaya, which gets less value now that we aren't going to transcend anymore. We do want to be able to Gust Wave Bonds, so probably just block with Shifting Winds, and we will end up pitching our levels in order to play Gust Wave. So we get to send Gust Wave into Bonds, into Spinning Wheel Kick, into Zephyr Needle, and that should be enough to kill Azalea. There's also a line. No, there isn't. There's a line where we send levels, but levels is only 1 for 3 with Go Again because we don't have a way to put an extra blue into our pitch zone to draw a card. So this is just going to be spinning wheel kick. It just is the best rate that we can find for 1 card. And pairs very nicely with Azalea being at 1 health. This is going to get 2 cards away from her, and the needle is enough to kill her. So this wasn't exactly a close game. I think it had the potential to be closer, but Zen just has a very good ability to come back from bad situations because he can put 2 extra cards in his hand with his armor more or less on demand. But I did want to show this game because it is, again, another good example of these suboptimal lines where we kind of just stumbled through it, where Zen really rewards a thoughtful approach to what are you finding and why are you doing it. We blocked that Command and Conquer, and I don't think we needed to, and if we hadn't done it, we would have given ourselves much better offensive options that perhaps leave Azalea with fewer resources to actually crack back. We were concerned about that Endless arrow in the arsenal, but Endless is just damage. And we could deal with that later, potentially denying Azalea any further resources. So, just a short one today. I hope you enjoyed the game. I hope you learned something. I certainly did. I'm continuing to learn about Zen with every game I play and every video I review. If that's the case for you, be sure to head jab that like button. My comments are always open for any questions or feedback. If you haven't already done so, please consider a YouTube subscription. It's the best free way to support me. I have a Patreon, I have an X. Links to those accounts are in the video description below. But no matter what you do, catch me back here next time for more daily FaB gameplay. And until then, take care.